We are so thrilled to be out here today at the grand opening of Mount Si High School. For us as architects, we have been imagining the possibilities of what can happen here for literally years, and we are so excited to now see that those possibilities are becoming reality.
Getting to this point is really exciting for us, not only as a district as a whole, but our community. I think when students walk through this building, they're going to feel respected because of what this community has allowed for our students to participate in.
It's largely designed kind of like a junior college, so we built a lot of spaces outside of the room for collaboration. One of the concepts we worked on with our architects was to make sure we didn't have odd intersections of hallways, tight, narrow spaces, lots of opportunities for kids to spread out.
We wanted flexible spaces that would adjust over the next 100 years of education, increase student collaboration to move outside of a classroom, to have something that is truly learner-centered and not just adult-focused, to try interdisciplinary approaches, and to really meet the social needs and emotional needs of our students.
On Mount Si High School, we faced a series of very significant and quite unusual challenges. We had to pursue deeper thinking in a very holistic way to take advantage of all opportunities that have been presented to us. So let's remember how it all happened. We can see from this watercolor sketch that the Mount Si High School is the third large form between the Mount Si on the east and Rattlesnake Ridge on the south, and it is bounded by the river on the north. The river is very idyllic, peaceful, but the river floods, and that required significant thinking about the resilience of the building. It was critical that building can be designed in a way that can resist and be sustainable even for those unfortunate events. You can see on this image how the campus was elevated in order for the adjacent landscape area and the underneath parking garage to absorb and allow the water flow in the event of the unfortunate floods.
In late 2012, NAC Architecture was hired to start working with the district to try to figure out what was the best approach for their high school program. They had a growing community. They had created a new freshman campus to provide new opportunities for their freshmen, as well as to address capacity needs at their high school level. We spent a few years studying a wide variety of options, from renovating the existing building to completely rebuilding it, to determine what was really the right thing for the district. We also worked closely with Frank Locker Planning Associates to go through a process with students, teachers, and other district staff to really envision what a new high school could be for them. One of the key things we did is try to identify what spatial characteristics are going to be really important for learning and for a successful high school. And with that, we developed a wide variety of words that we consider to be the signifiers of success. If our building could live up to the goals identified in these words and phrases, then we knew this building would be a success. Things like it needed to be student-centered. It needed to be a project-based environment. Students needed to have a really high level of engagement, and relationships needed to be supported throughout the building design. Everyone throughout this visioning process really believed that the building matters. The community resoundingly supported the bond measure that funded the construction of this new high school.
It's time we begin our journey in design. But we're not going to do this alone. We're going to be in partnership with the Snoqualmie Valley School District, engaging community members, key district staff, teachers, school staff, and students. We first began to explore the design through words with what are the constraints, what are the needs, and what are the goals for the project. Our large architectural team used a wide variety of methods to explore as many options as possible in an effort to achieve the best possible educational environment. The design process culminated in a large group meeting where we evaluated multiple design options based on owners' criteria and goals. This allowed us to select a preferred design option.
That selected option Brent just mentioned is a series of pavilions within the landscape. The next step was to really explore how independent or connected these pavilions wanted to be. We looked at this from an architectural perspective, of course, but also from an experiential and programmatic perspective as well.
After this very thorough planning session, we understood that we are looking at an elevated campus, and campus needed to be elevated physically, educationally, and experientially. On this diagram here, you can see that campus is brought up in 7 different buildings, academies. The concern of scale was very important for the group. So that physical breaking down of scale into the smaller learning communities with the different commons here as shown in blue was very important physical aspect of the campus organization. In this diagram, which shows the circulation further dispersed with the yellow diagrams of the spaces that are very conducive for social interaction, for educational purposes, we looked how do we provide that fabric of spaces throughout that campus. How do we approach the campus with the opportunities for social and educational interaction. This diagram with the blue sharing spaces distributed throughout the 4 academies, in this case, 4 small learning communities that had a number of interactive spaces between them. That was the vision that was very important for this campus to be elevated in the educational and experiential way. As you can see, all of these spaces have as much connection to the outside, to the natural light as possible, so that the campus feel can be as conducive for relaxation and the educational interaction. So as you can see in this section, the campus is split in several different buildings. The red platform is the base of the elevated campus. Underneath the platform, there is a whole parking level for about 400 cars. You can see the blue voids with the commons and cafeteria being connectors in between the different buildings. You can see how the thinking of taking the experiential quality was carried through by elevating the greenhouse on the top of the 2nd floor, where it can enjoy the benefits of the views to the outside, to the distance, and being a good educational space for the students.
So you can see here when you look at the site plan that the L-shaped building allows us to shape the building around the existing stadium and track and field and preserve the other half of the site for development of parking and additional fields. This allowed us to create this new building while the existing building was still occupied. The existing building is located roughly where the Performing Arts Center and the new parking and fields are. As we start to dive into the layout of the building, we want to give you a little bit of orientation. You heard Boris mention the idea that this is really set up as kind of multiple buildings or multiple academies that then are linked by a series of circulation spaces. So what you see in yellow are kind of the core academies that are intended primarily for 10th through 12th grade. The orange is what we've been calling the Freshman Academy, and it's largely a space for freshmen so that they can be able to get accustomed to being part of this larger community. In purple is the front entry and the administration area. In red is the new gymnasium and athletics complex. You see here in kind of a medium blue color is the Performing Arts Center and music. And in between those, as Boris mentioned, highlighted in blue are 3 separate common spaces. The idea here was that we didn't have one gigantic commons, but we had multiple spaces for students to be able to dine, as well as to create that kind of in-between or void space that allows you to get those views and penetration to the outside. And lastly, you'll see that interspersed throughout this is the elevated outdoor space. That again, because we are up above the parking, we actually have more outdoor space that students can enjoy as part of their kind of secure school experience. As we look at both the second and the third floors, you'll see that these academies are oriented as a 3-floor volume, and students can continue to kind of circulate between those volumes and get views down and above to the upper and lower floors. So as we start to look at a quick overview of the path we're going to be taking today on our virtual tour, it's going to start at the main entry and walk us through many really intriguing spaces on the first floor, across that elevated outdoor space and to the freshman building, and then back through into some additional really kind of core spaces for the main campus to the second floor, and we're going to finish up kind of at the library and the community space next to the library. You'll notice in some of the images today that there's a portion of this school that's not complete yet. That's because this is an occupied campus and we needed to build this in kind of 2 primary building phases. That second phase includes a 700-seat theater, music rooms, and support spaces for both drama and music program.
So let us look some more what an elevated campus in physical, educational, and experiential terms may mean for design of the new high school. You can see that there is opportunity to have clear connection of the spaces like commons and cafeterias with the views in the distance. You can see, for example, the clear entries are very secure, and here is the drop-off to the freshman campus that is separate from the main entry. In the educational terms, it is very important to see how the shared spaces that are interspersed through the building have good transparency and good connections with their main adjacent spaces throughout. Some of them go 2 stories high, and yet still they have view in the distance. Interesting part of our planning discussion was how to use the socializing spaces for student activities throughout the day. How can we maximize the use of space in social and educational terms? So we can see that students are using during the day, during the curriculum hours, these socializing space for their individual activities, small groups, for art classes. It was something that was really wonderful to see. This is the space where the school has been using the Commons cafeteria for the general large group staff training. Now fast forward to 2020 or 2021 and 22 and think of a hybrid model of a high school. What happens if you would hypothetically have something that would tell you that you may want to organize the learning in smaller groups of classes where the cohorts are not really mingling much with the other? How can you use the space? Is there a flipped classroom that could take a benefit of such education? And here is the occasion to use something that was intended for the staff that can be long valid in the future. We thought about how these spaces can be well connected to the nature. That concern about relationship and the scale was very important for the group. You can see these spaces connected inside, outside. You can see how that transition from inside to the outside was working and happening.
There are so many spaces throughout this building that are beautiful, that capture the views around us, but that also are just incredibly interesting and exciting. It's great to finally have students in the building. We've been building for so many years. To see students interacting with the facility and getting excited about coming to learn, that really is what this is all about, is having students be engaged, learning some incredible things, and really just launching their path into the future.
And here are a couple of examples where we try to really bring the daylight and connection to the nature with the views from near and far to allow students to have that restorative ability of nature being present in their daily life. Connection to nature was also carried through the daylighting, from the commons, cafeterias, at the edges of the campus, to deep into the spaces, to all of the spaces on the campus, such as the weight room here or career tech. The concern of the daylighting was pervasive and infuses the whole campus throughout.
Now we want you to experience Mount Si firsthand. Let's start out under the library, where you can imagine yourself being here on Friday as the Friday Morning Welcoming Committee celebrates your entry into the school. Let's enter through the main entry hall, where both school pride and community history are celebrated. The community is very proud of their history while also embracing the future needs of education. To the left is the triangle courtyard that brings you up from the parking garage and also serves as a secure outdoor lunch space. On the right, we have administration, counselors' offices, and the career center leading you into the First Commons area.
We are approaching the first of 3 common spaces. Each of these common spaces were purposely placed as a key intersection for student and teacher support. The commons includes a lot of variety of space, whether that be the open dining area or places for prospect on the student learning stairs, or more private along the edge for those maybe who are a little more introverted and who just want to watch what's going on. The Commons is also keyly located with different support services next to it or near it, such as the student store, or upstairs right above is the library or the cafe for partaking in lunch that are prepared by the students. The Career Center was placed purposely next to the Commons, since this is going to be a large service for students who are planning their future careers, whether they be a technical school or college, university work.
The Culinary Arts is a really important program. You'll notice its central location adjacent to the First Commons. This connection to the Commons allows for food service and catering opportunities for the culinary students. Some students work side by side with the kitchen staff serving lunch. Furthering those catering opportunities, the Corner Cafe has sliding glass doors opening up to the Commons as well. The Culinary Arts program is also connected to the commercial kitchen and allows students real-world experiences in food prep, cooking, serving, and catering. This is a really big high school, so it was important to us that wayfinding is simple and intuitive. As you move through the main connector halls, textured wood panels in large numbers identify the different academies.
Brent and Malia described the importance of the culinary arts and student store to the program and to the daily life of the campus. In addition to that, it is important to know that there are 5 other dedicated locations for food distributions where students can get their food in smaller groups and help their daily circulation. We had a lot of conversation about that with the planning committee, and they have taken quite a visionary aspect. So on this image, for example, on the left side under the stairs, you can see a small cafe, but this is also adjacent to the space that is off the main commons, as Brent was describing, where the possibly introvert students can look for a pause right next to the natural space on the right-hand side. We mentioned before that the whole campus is organized so there is distribution of commonses in specific locations. There are 3 main commons areas because creating relationship was very much on the forefront of the whole school planning committee. So that way of thinking was carried through with the biophilic principle of prospect and refuge. You can see on this image that on the left side there's a smaller space for quieter students, those that need more privacy, right next to the bigger prospect space in the larger area. And in turn, you can see that this big prospect space is almost like a refuge space to the larger distance to the Mount Si in the far. And that way of thinking about the spaces has been interwoven throughout the planning of the campus on the interior and the exterior. We put a lot of thought in designing the second floor commons areas so they can be used not just as a lunch areas, but also as a socializing area and educational spaces for curriculum between the lunch hours. It was really following the visionary ideas of the student-centered environment that the educational committee wanted to create from the early days of planning. So this exterior space, which is from one side a connector of the second commons towards the freshman campus in the distance, is also a major socializing space. It's an extending lunchroom. It's a hangout space for students. It's a connector. So you can see the students are congregating here. When we were there, they are using it just like it was imagined, and then some. It was wonderful to see how they're occupying every of these little spaces, smaller and larger groups. And this space, of course, has connection to the nature in the distance. But it also has the smaller spaces, like the space underneath this canopy on the right-hand side, which is actually an exercise space for special education suite, which is right behind it.
As we enter the freshman campus building across the elevated outdoor space, we notice that this building has the same characteristics as the rest of the campus. It's chock full of spaces that are really student-centered, starting with this main entry stair that has a teaching space and a mural of the Snoqualmie Falls, leading us into the core academic area where we have a wide variety of both interdisciplinary classrooms, small conference group working areas, and open flexible spaces. And then, of course, we've talked multiple times that third common space is located within this building. This commons is also really open to the exterior. There's a deck right out front where students can be eating covered outside, as well as really partake in the beautiful scenery around. And lastly, this building is designed with flexibility in mind. So it has its own entry, its own drop-off out front, and so a smaller administration and counseling area so that these students can really be well supported right from the time they're dropped off at school.
As a brand new high school for the district, it was crucial to develop a career technical facility that met their needs today as well as in the future. In addition to bringing our own thought leadership to CTE, we created a summer internship opportunity for high school students and recent graduates to explore creative options for the program. The students came from a rigorous design and production studio called The Future. They used this summer internship opportunity to apply what they learned in the future to the design of the career technical program at Mount Si High School.
I've kind of quit calling myself a teacher. I have these relationships with students where, a big part of my responsibility is kind of helping them navigate where they currently are and where they're going. I'm trying to create the classroom that I wish I'd had when I was in high school. The idea behind this internship experiment that I'm kind of running is finding a way for both myself and my students to get into engineering and design firms, architecture firms, and use the summer to get some real-world experience with these different disciplines. This summer, I've brought in 4 of my students to team up with NEC Architecture.
So Mike contacted me this summer and asked me if I wanted to do this internship with NEC Architecture.
We are designing a new space within the Mount Si High School.
And we're taking charge of designing the CTE SLC, so the career technology portion of the school.
We're going to be designing the space.
And how the space and the curriculum can fit together.
And we also want to include collaboration between the classrooms.
And then last I'll introduce you to the Mount Si team, which is with whom you'll end up spending more time.
Brian kind of came in and told us that the client was going to be coming in and that we would have to present alongside the Mount Si team.
There were probably 12 people in the room, and the executive committee of the school board was sitting right in the front row.
I was pretty nervous at first, but they really liked our idea.
And they're asking questions that we didn't really expect them to be asking.
But afterwards, we really kind of took what those questions were and applied them to our designs.
When you hear people talk about what they remember from high school, it's very rarely the content, it's more the relationships. And so I wasn't necessarily teaching them anymore. We were all doing it together, but yet we were still learning. It was as if the project was doing the teaching, not me. I guess the future of education for me, the environment in which I would be excited to be working in 10, 15 years from now would be one where our central mission is to develop lifelong learners. So ultimately, that's what I'd like to see for the future.
The Career Technology Center was envisioned to be a place to foster collaboration and teaming. At the heart of this center is the Innovation Lab. As you can see highlighted in yellow, this lab is literally the heart of the wing. There's generous amounts of glass to help that interconnectivity to the surrounding programs to the Innovation Lab. Within this space is a presentation area where students will present their projects to a team of mentors. There are strong interconnections between all the labs and the shops, which will help facilitate the movement of materials and projects from one manufacturing or workshop space to another. Imagine, if you will, the students from the surrounding programs of robotics, electronics, engineering and design meet together in the Innovation Lab to begin their project that they are assigned. They will work in multidiscipline teams. They will use tools within each of the labs and the shops, developing a solution to their problem. Eventually, they take it to the manufacturing lab to assemble and provide testing. They'll then, in the end, come back to the Innovation Lab to present their findings and the results to their mentors.
Above the CTE area in this academy are the art classrooms and a full range of other academic programs. Collaborative flex spaces and conference rooms give students and teachers multiple opportunities for small group learning. As you exit this academy, the textured wood walls and graphics remind you of your place within the school.
Each academy within the school is designed as an interdisciplinary place for teaching and learning. These academies, as you see here, have a central, open, flexible collaborative space as shown in yellow. There's going to be a series of academic classrooms that have very large windows looking into those spaces. And you'll notice on floors 2 and 3, we have a variety of different types of science labs that complement the interdisciplinary learning within these spaces. And within one floor of each academy is always located a teacher collaboration room. This allows teachers within the academy to be able to do interdisciplinary collaboration and staff planning. These academies are really trying to advance that mission that Boris talked about before of having an elevated educational experience. Just as the common spaces within the school are always structured around a view to the outside and especially a view to Mount Si, so it is with the academies. They have fantastic views to the outside, so the students are always really feeling not just connected to their academic programs, but also to nature.
As we look at this floor plan of the library, we can see that library was envisioned as a multitude of spaces of synergetic nature that can provide flexibility for academic pursuits in the future. As you're approaching it, the brown space, it's ASB room with a large transparency. The magenta is the video lab that is right next to the video production. And it is a space that can be working in conjunction with the library. After hours, students can make their project, research in the library, and continue their education. The red space is the maker space, which is again something that can be helped by research and is a space that can benefit from good interaction with the library. As you think of the library and this location in the building, it is really the one space that's both for the students, for the staff on a daily basis, for the community gatherings. It is designed for about 150 people, and it is one space from which you can relate yourself both to the Rattlesnake Ridge on the south and to the Mount Si of the east. It's really anchoring the Mount Si High School at the third large mass in the valley.
As Boris was just describing, the library is one of those key public gathering spaces in the school. But of course, the gymnasium and its associated lobby is also a gathering space. As you leave the library, you end up at the top of the stair where you get to see that historic mural and a great view into that lobby space. To celebrate the community connections that happen within that lobby, we have created a custom perforated metal graphic that celebrates Mount Si.
It is my hope that we can always remember that this building is more than just what is visible from the street. We set out to provide a facility to foster student engagement, support staff in delivering the highest quality of education, and help all students have a successful 21st century high school experience. We have built Mount Si High School with pride, and we hope that our entire community is equally proud of the newest addition to our amazing valley. Welcome to our house. Welcome to Wildcat Country.
High School is a new 3-story comprehensive high school in Kirkland, Washington. The new school is an adaptable instructional tool designed for the 21st century learner. The academic program includes 7 interdisciplinary learning suites, including classrooms, studios, and science labs.
We have 50 years of Juanita High School, and so there is a long tradition, and the community cares about the school. I think having the school be a hub of the community is really important.
As we look at the Juanita High School site, we seek to understand what are the site opportunities and constraints that we're working with because of the environmental conditions. The first that we look at is the tree buffer, and how does we embrace this wonderful attribute of the site. We also were looking at landslide potential areas, which are indicated by the orange, and the gray areas indicate areas that have potential seismic hazard area, which would require more robust structural system if we were to build in that area. We also wanted to understand how water moves through the site, specifically in looking at the wetland streams and how do we support their flow through the site. We actually added a pedestrian bridge to support traffic and connection through the site. And as we brought all of these elements together, it became very clear that the ideal place to build the new Juanita High School was where the existing Juanita High School already was. A major determinant of the design was the highly restricted buildable area due to the need to retain the existing field house and pool building, and the majority of the site facilities with the added complexity of keeping the school in session during construction. The result replaced the existing 1-story school with a 3-story facility on the same footprint through a series of selected demolition or reconstruction phases. The educational vision and goal of the school began as an early step in the design process in which we identified the principles that would guide the design in an effort to develop a building organization that is responsive to the unique demands of the curriculum, program, site, and school community. The 3-story building surrounds the central student courtyard, representing Juanita's strong sense of community. On the upper levels, general classrooms ring the courtyard, while project classrooms and paired science labs ring the exterior. This building configuration strengthens the sense of connection for students and teachers by creating strong visual awareness of the whole throughout the building. The architectural expression references a geode, with a brick veneer that is warm and enduring towards the public, and light silvery metal siding around the courtyard reflecting the energy of the scholars. Welcome to Juanita High School in the Lake Washington School District. We are in Kirkland, Washington, and I'm going to take you on a tour of the 3-story administrative and classroom building that opened in September of 2020. As we walk around the site, take a moment to look at how the site is organized. We have an existing field house and gymnasium off to my left that were in operation throughout the construction process. The new classroom building is directly behind me, with the theater on my far right, which opened in the fall of 2019. The students were on site during the construction of this project, and the project included a phased opening. So the first phase of the building opened in the fall of 2019, and the second phase is waiting for students to come back to school as we progress through the pandemic. Follow me. The site is designed to encourage socialization for the students throughout the school day. As we walk around the building, notice that there are opportunities for the students to gather, both within the building and outside. One of the prominent gathering areas on the site is the athletic plaza. The administrative offices are to my left, and beyond is the athletic plaza that connects directly to the athletic fields. The Juanita High School community really wanted a way to connect their parking areas to their athletic plazas. And this area also doubles as a gathering area for students throughout the day. As we go through the covered opening into the new building, we enter into the entry vestibule with the administrative office to our left. At the start of the school day, the students will enter the building and come directly into the foyer area and be in a common gathering area where many of the student services are available. We have the Career Center off to my left. Beyond is our central gathering courtyard with the counseling area, and the students that arrive by a bus will all converge in this location, which offers them access directly to the student commons. Prior to going to the student commons, the students have the opportunity to engage in utilizing the attendance office, the health room, the bookkeeper space, or the Career Center, which has truly become a hub of activity throughout the school day. As we head into the courtyard, we'll be entering through the building with it. Students that arrive via bus will be arriving through the gates beyond, underneath the bridge, and they will be all coming to gather in one location. One of the experiences that we were really wanting to reinforce in the design of Juanita High School was to really maintain the sense of community that was very integral to the design of this facility. And one strategy that we utilize to really reinforce that community is that whether students arrived by a bus or dropped off in a car or drove themselves, that they would all come together in one place and have the opportunity to engage in a very welcoming central courtyard space. This space is designed to really respond to environmental conditions as we feel the warm sun on us, to provide places for students to sit and gather, opportunities for them to bring their lunches from the cafeteria through very large garage doors, enjoy the seating in this space, while at the same time able to engage with their academic explorations. We have our art classrooms that have large overhead doors that open up directly. We have passive supervision from our counseling offices on the first floor. And we have opportunities for learning in the signage around the site. And we can focus on that as we walk around the building. The varied steps really are encourage socialization, as well as really providing a place to take a break from their typical school day. Another feature of the courtyard was really thinking about how it would function at different times of the day. Not only is there lighting to support use in the evening hours, in the Northwest we have a very short window for daylight in the wintertime, and we wanted to make sure that this was still a welcoming environment even when the sun has gone down before 5 o'clock. Knowing that we want to support a variety of programs at the same time, the school store is located along the pathway that the students will be progressing on a regular basis so that they can support that program. It's also situated in this location with large windows that allow it to engage the students that are gathered underneath cover so that if inclement weather, it's raining, we have protection. But we also have direct access back into the building for theater productions that may be occurring in the evening. And so theater goers have the opportunity to come and enjoy this outdoor space on breaks and also take advantage of the school store. The Commons is the heart of the school, surrounded by outdoor areas, providing a vibrant home for learning, indoor and outdoor socializing, eating, large group gatherings, presentations, and performances.
My favorite part would probably be like right here in the cafeteria. It just looks so cool that you can just look over and see everything. And
just the big, tall ceilings, it gives you a nice homey feel and you feel comfortable and welcome to be here all day.
Most of our kids are in here during lunch, and there's lots of interesting different spaces for kids to be sitting in. They can sit on these wonderful stairs here, they can sit up above, they can sit on different kinds of tables, and so kids have all found a place to be.
Such a huge fan of our new space. Getting to walk in and have students right from the main office be able to see the College and Career Center, they just have so much access to being able to see what they can do next. It's been so nice to be so visible for students that they can pop in, ask questions on their way to class or just right in as they're coming into school or leaving school.
This space is an incredibly helpful area because we have two people to help us through like scholarships, financial aid, and even preparing ourselves for college. I would consider this place a really safe space for people like us to also eat lunch, at the same time build stronger relationships.
For me, honestly, like in the beginning, I didn't really know about the application process and stuff, so when I was lost, I came here for my answers.
The library is a safe place for us, certain types of kids too, that like they come here right when their lunch starts, and this is the place they want to hang out, and we do our best to like be in good relations with them. I'm actually hoping the physical space and how pleasant this is, I call it a Starbucks with books, is going to draw more kids in to become readers and to maybe have some kind of virtuous cycle of positivity towards reading.
clusters around the building are organized with 6 enclosed learning spaces around one larger shared learning area. In order to really maximize efficiency around the building, they are located in such a way that when class is in session, the corridor spaces are an integral part of that shared learning area, while at other times when students may want to pull out of the flow of traffic through the classroom corridors, they have the advantage of engaging in these wonderful shared learning areas. I want to point out a few features in this shared learning area. The mechanical systems are located on each floor level, and they are strategically located behind these whiteboard panels so that we could utilize this wall surface area as another opportunity for educators or students to really engage within each other. As I am speaking to a larger group, I'm able to have visual connection to students that may be in a classroom beyond. I'm able to have visual connections that students that may choose to work in enclosed small group areas, or I'm able to look down the hallways to provide that passive supervision through the space. This shared learning area also has the wonderful opportunity to provide vision and connection to athletic activities. From this shared learning area, you can look directly onto the track and field that were existing at the time of construction and remained in full operation through that construction process. The small group areas within each shared learning areas has sliding doors to provide an enclosed environment for small group work or for working with a specialist. The classrooms that are off of these shared learning area, there are 6 of them, have a variety of services available to them. As I mentioned earlier, we have our moment frame structural system to allow for future adaptability of this building. Similarly, the studio spaces have water and high ceiling spaces, electrical that is hanging from overhead, and that allows for those program areas to vary over the life of the building, whether it be to support art, science, or other problem-based learning. Other cues as you walk around the building is that you'll notice that on one side of the corridor we have a different color wall protection than we do on the other side of the corridor. That is to provide a subtle cue to students as they move through the building to know which direction that they are moving through the hallway. In a building that is 3 stories, we also took advantage of opportunities to have daylight at our stairwells, and that provides a visual connection to the outdoors. Each of the floors also has a teacher planning area. The teacher planning area allows for increased utilization of the floor plate by having a place for teachers to go and plan for their next activity while another teacher is able to use the classroom. The teacher planning area is located throughout the building to provide a place for teachers to plan for their next class, which allows their classroom to be utilized by another educator. Features of this space include an opportunity to get a sink, a quiet phone room to make a personal call, there's some storage, and then there's flexible furnishing that can be modified based on the number of teachers that need to utilize this space. The school did not want to have any dead-end corridors. And so in planning of Juanita High School, they definitely wanted to reinforce the circular patterns that they had in their previous building. But as we went 3-story, we needed to think about how you could do that for multiple levels as well. So there are 4 big stairwells throughout the building that not only orient occupants as they move through their day, but provide an unending pathway of circulation through the building, not too dissimilar from a Mobius strip. This variety of circulation really reinforced the opportunity for them to interact in a variety of ways throughout the day, reinforcing the community of the school.
The design of this high school was well thought out for the diversity of space needed for our programs for students who have some special needs and our special education programming.
They love it. Talk to paras and the teachers. This is just a marvelous place to be in, and also having a meeting space there that makes it easier for families when we have IEPs. They have a conference room. You can meet with families, whether it's for a formalized IEP or it's just a meeting, a quick check-in, and everything's just right there. It's very helpful.
So Juanita's still the best school in the nation, that's all I gotta say, but I'm also a lot more inspired by this new building. It kind of inspires me to work a lot harder and be more successful in my life.
The Juanita High School Theater is designed as a classroom first and a performance space second. The environment is designed to support students that are learning about the technology of supporting theater productions as well as set design and performance. It is conveniently located adjacent to music classrooms so that those spaces can fluctuate as back of house, green room spaces, as well as diverse performance environments. As we head in this direction, we're heading towards the drama department, where not only do we have the entrance to the theater, but we also have a box office space, few practice rooms, and the foyer area was designed with very interesting acoustics to also serve as a choral practice space. There was a lot of thought throughout this building to think about not only the typical learning environments or project classrooms or labs, but also to think about how do we leverage the area in between? How do we create those places for socialization, for learning in small groups, or just to provide those other spaces that educators are able to leverage to really diversify their learning. If we were to walk down this hallway, we would see the music classrooms. All the classroom environments are well illuminated with daylight. The music classrooms are located adjacent to the stage, so they can also serve as warm-up space when events are happening. Directly adjacent are practice rooms and offices that really support a comprehensive high school music program. And if we turn around, you have the opportunity to look outside of the theater space where you're able to see that brick, very civic feeling exterior to the building that is much like the exterior of the geo. The glass areas that you see in between the brick areas are where the shared learning areas are that provide the visual cue as well as the wonderful daylight into those shared learning areas. Vision of the school. Create an inviting environment where students and community members feel welcome and safe. Demonstrate school culture and pride throughout the building and make sure that it is shared with the community. Provide a variety of functional, practical, and adaptable spaces that have the capacity and configuration to take advantage of the evolution of education. Design activated environments that inspire professionals, students, and community members and cultivate learning. Design socialization areas for students and staff to gather to reinforce their community. Create spaces that encourage student clubs, sports, rehearsals, and activity to happen as a part of their daily life. Design easily understood building and site organization elements that is easy to navigate. Utilize bright and welcoming natural and sustainable materials that ensure a long and healthy building life.
We are standing outside the main entrance of the new Saugus Middle High School. This brand new state-of-the-art school complex is built on the former 22-acre high school site and is directly adjacent to bustling Route 1. The new 269,000 square foot middle high school is anchored by three parts: a 4-story high school wing, a 3-story middle school wing, and a central core that bridges the two schools and houses common spaces. The site around the new facility has many spaces for outdoor learning, classrooms, and dining, as well as parking in the brand new stadium complex. From our earliest discussions with the school building committee and the Saugus residents, it was easy to understand the tremendous pride people felt for the town's storied history. The town manager, Scott Crabtree, would often ask HMFH during the design process, what makes this building uniquely Saugus? These discussions led us to find creative ways to bring that history and the Saugus community stories to life in an engaging visual way that helps set the identity of the school. The metal-clad main entrance form echoes the giant felloes used at the historic Saugus Ironworks, and the curtain wall towers outlined in bright Saugus red accent the building facade while highlighting the project areas inside the school where important hands-on learning is taking place. The new middle high school was a large town-wide investment in resources, time, and community efforts during the visioning process. The entire town of Saugus, from students seeking specialized education to senior citizens participating in adult education, directly see and feel the benefits of their investment in this new school.
So this is a shared facility between middle school and high school, and for a total of 1,360 students. And the concept behind that was to reduce the number of transitions between school changes, between grade levels. So the middle school students would start here and spend their whole high school career here, and that would help the students and teachers to know each other better and to reduce anxiety about grade level changes. They really want to keep the two populations somewhat separated in the school, so we designed it to have two separate entrances, one for high school, one for middle school. And the entrance here in the center will be used as the visitor entrance. So now we're in their secured vestibule. After the kids come in the morning, these doors will be locked. This is the main office right here, and they have a teller window so that if a parent needs to come and drop something off for their student, they get buzzed into this vestibule and they can drop off whatever they need here. These doors are locked, so once the person checks in and their ID gets scanned, then that person at the main office can open these doors up and let the person into the school. So that adds a layer of security that they didn't have in their older schools.
We enter directly into the high school cafeteria, which also doubles as a lobby for the school and public events. The cafeteria has a large ornamental forum stair, which will be used as seating for lunch, as well as an area for presentations during the day. Each space in this new facility is designed to be flexible and multi-purpose, so they can serve many functions throughout the day.
You know, every square inch counts when you're building schools right now. It's very expensive. So we want to make sure that the spaces get used all day long. So something like the forum stair will allow the cafeteria to be used for lectures and performances beyond just the cafeteria use.
Ahead of us and in a very prominent location, we see a 10-foot tall portrait of Monta Wampate, the sachem, chief, or wise leader of Saugus. He is a renowned tribal leader and a prominent figure in the town's history. He will also appear across from the school sachem mascot at the new field complex to emphasize Saugus's pride in its Native American heritage. If you take the forum stairs to the second floor, you will see that the new building not only supports education, but also community gathering and well-being. As you look down the main street that connects the high school and the middle school, you will see multiple light wells flooding the space that is deep within the footprint of the building with natural light.
So this is one of the large-scale project areas, and it can be used during lunch. Senior privilege, they might be able to have kids up here. It's also meant to house some of the wellness classes, so they might do a yoga class out here. They might just instruct the kids on what they're doing in the PE class today. Again, multi-purpose space for everybody to use.
This large area between the gymnasium and auditorium will also serve as lobby space for the events. Or, in this time of the COVID pandemic, additional classroom space with increased social distancing. The main street is meant to be a central and casual thoroughfare that weaves together key common spaces, much like the Saugus River meanders through the town. It is a welcoming space that encourages students to engage with their school community outside of the classroom time. Along the light well is a super graphic of a historic map of what the first settlement of Saugus looked like. HMFH worked diligently to infuse the building design with elements of the past.
It's part of the history lesson for the students of where Saugus came from, what has made Saugus great today. And you can see all of the different historic features like the Round Hill. I know that's a Native American settlement that was here originally, right there in the center. And we've actually put their new school building, superimposed it on the map so you can see how they fit in. So this light well is above the middle school cafeteria, but that light well brings in a lot of natural light all day long to the students on the ground floor. On this wall of the light well, we have some inspirational quotes. So while the students are sitting and eating their lunch, they can read the quotes and be inspired.
The second floor houses all of the shared spaces, which include a 1,000-seat spectator gymnasium, a 750-seat auditorium, a black box theater, and a cafe for refreshments.
So this is their gymnasium. It's a 12,000 square foot gym. The wood trusses, recall the wood trusses at the old high school gym. We also tried to use a lot of wood in this building to reflect on the style of the buildings at the Saugus Ironworks.
This is their auditorium. Theater is very popular in Saugus, so it's going to get a lot of use. The ceiling is perforated for acoustic purposes, so it's actually acoustically transparent. We didn't have the typical volume of space that we would use for a facility this size, so we're using the space above the ceiling to also help with the acoustics. And then down at the front level of the auditorium is seating that also has tablet arms, so they can use it as lecture space as well, and even remote learning if they wanted to do that. There's catwalks and gridiron above the stage. One other thing is down in front, there's a stage extension. It's set in the floor right now, but it's designed that they could lift it up and extend the stage out farther than the proscenium, more so than it is right now.
Our tour continues as we cross the bridge to the media center.
So the green signifies that that's the high school pod, so that if you're a high school student, you know you're headed to the right side of the school if that's where you belong. And again, we talked about the blue for the middle school pods. That's part of the wayfinding in the school. It is a really big school, so the colors help the students and visitors understand where they are in the building. So we can go across the bridge to the media center.
Below us, you can see the high school cafeteria as well as the outdoor dining area, which can connect via a large glass and movable wall. You also can get a glimpse of the new stadium complex under construction in the distance.
You can go inside the media center. So this is another shared space between the middle school and high school. You come in and you see a nice window seat here that you can sit and look down at the high school cafeteria. There's a lot of overlooks in this school so that the students can see what's going on in other parts of the building and really have that cross pollination of what everybody else is doing in the building. So the high school and the middle school share this space. There's two setups for classroom space, one on this side and one on the other side. You can see the one in the distance has one of their touchscreen video monitors. So they have mobile versions of those that can move throughout the whole school and again, use lots of space in different ways. That's that multi-purpose space in this building. There's comfortable seating along the windows here. You can also look out at what will be their future stadium complex. It's a great view from up here. That used to be the site of the existing high school. So that high school remained functioning while we built this new building. And then once the new building was up and running, we tore down the existing high school for the fields. So here's the other classroom setup. So you could potentially have 2 classrooms of students in here working. So we purposely kept all of the bookcases in the center of the room low so that the librarian could always have a good view of everybody in the space and make sure everybody's behaving. And then we purposely kept the larger bookcases on the perimeter. It also leads to a nice open feel in the room. Over here, we have another classroom area, and it also has a large nanowall. So you'll see the nanowalls in the pods quite often, and it's a folding glass wall, so you can open up the library space to connect to the project area outside of it. Again, it's set up for COVID, so the students are using it as a classroom right now, but it does have some comfortable furniture and more of a project area feel in non-COVID times. So they wanted to have spill-out space like this if they were doing sort of an art show or any kind of science fair or presentation, so they could use a larger area than just the media center and invite the public into these areas. So the glass walls make these 2 spaces much more flexible and multi-purpose.
The next stop on our tour is the high school academic pod. Both the middle school and the high school are organized into pods. This is common for middle schools, who often team teach. However, it's a new concept for high school organization. The pod is formed by generic classrooms around the perimeter, and in the center of the pod, there's either an engineering classroom, a technology classroom, an art room, and a makerspace. So that's the heart of each of the pods. All of the general classrooms are on the perimeter so that they get windows to the outside. They also have these large glass windows facing the project area so the teachers can feel comfortable sending their students out to work in the project areas while still having a class of other students. It also connects you to the outside of the building and the nature when you're in the center of the building. So in the center here, we have the project area, the maker space. We have the 2 science labs with the nanowall doors here, and those nanowall doors open up onto the project area.
and connect into it. And then in the pod, the heart of the pod, we have technology classes. On this floor, it's the CAD class and the makerspace. So that can all open up so that they can work seamlessly together. They can work on projects out here, leave them out here. Again, the pod is a grade level of students. So the pod kind of concept is typical for middle schools, but it's not typical for a high school. So they thought they would bring it to the high school side so that the teachers and the students would have a smaller group, a cohort to work with. And that way, you know, for even mental health reasons, teachers would know their students better. It would be a smaller community.
The first floor is the 12th grade floor. It has a larger, flexible space for holding college fairs and supporting casual study and encouraging independence. The general classrooms and science labs are arranged at the perimeter of the pod. They all receive abundant natural light and have views to the outside. These classrooms also have borrowed lights to the project areas. This not only allows natural light into the project areas, but it also allows the teachers to have passive supervision over students working independently. Even when you are deep within the footprint of the building, you always feel connected to sunlight and the outdoors. Like Main Street, the pods are flooded with natural light from the monumental light wells, which are identified by super graphics that again honor Saugus' history and pioneering industries. The high school light well showcases the historic iron industry. The pods have distinct colors to help with wayfinding. The high school pod is green to recall the beautiful rolling green hills around the Saugus historic ironworks site. Windows into the multi-story light well facilitate views between grade levels and help foster a sense of shared space and experience. The pods are also organized to emphasize STEAM learning. STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and math, and it is the primary focus of the district's educational goals. Each pod is centered around a science lab with large movable glass walls, which when opened, connect directly to a shared project area, which then connects to the technology or art spaces in the heart of the pod. These fully equipped and flexible areas allow for group collaboration, team teaching, and spontaneous encounters between peers.
So again, you can see their mobile technology that they have for each of the project areas. This makes learning seamless in this building. You can sort of move wherever you need to go and take your technology with you. And again, these project areas are for independent study, small group work. They're also in that larger area for 2 classrooms of kids to come together and work on projects. And they all have this light well in the center of them to bring light down into the middle of the building. We talked about the high school having the ironworks theme. So each of the pods celebrates a historic industry in Saugus, and the high school has the ironworks. And again, quotes do inspire the students from all the different disciplines. There's quotes about science, quotes about math, philosophy, literature. So the high school science labs are meant to transform into either a lecture or a lab setup. So you notice that all the tables have wheels on them. Right now they're in a lecture format, and it's for COVID too that the kids are really spaced out. But it can also be wheeled 2 by 2 side onto the perimeter and be in a lab format. So the classroom setup's very flexible and easy to switch back and forth from lecture to a lab. And we have the power in the ceiling so that it can be very flexible in how they set up the desks if they need to use microscopes or something at the desks. So again, more about flexibility in all of the classrooms. Now we're gonna go upstairs in the red staircase. So Main Street has 2 red staircases that are for use by the public. So after hours, when the pods are no longer needed, they can lock down. So there's large doors that lock down the pods. And then the public can have access to the Main Street. So the red stairs are part of that main circulation. The water fountains have touchless bottle filling stations. So in COVID, it's really important to have things that are touchless. And even the restrooms have these wash bar features. Everything's touchless here. So you can, wash your hands here with the water, and you get soap, and this is the drying. So everything's touchless in this school. So now we're on the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is actually the floor that's most connected in the building, and it has the 8th grade for the middle school and the 9th grade for the high school. And that was purposeful, that those 2 grade levels may actually share space, share curriculum, so it is the most connected by the bridge here. It also has the outdoor classroom.
As we make our next stop, we're on the 3rd floor, where we have designed an outdoor classroom for wellness classes, as well as lessons on gardening and other science-related activities. This outdoor classroom overlooks a green roof planted with beautiful sedum plants.
So we're out on the outdoor classroom now on the 3rd floor. This is shared outdoor space for both schools. It's meant to do wellness classes out here like yoga, stretching, meditation, also for their science classes to come out here. Ultimately, we'll have planters that the students can plant vegetables in. We also have the green roof, and that's a sedum planting. Basically, it takes the rainwater and cleans it and filters it before it gets out.
This type of roof cuts down on the heat island effect, as well as absorbing rainwater to reduce urban runoff. This new school complex has many sustainable features and is targeting LEED Gold. The new facility is in the center of town with access to public transportation as well as a bike path next door to help reduce travel by vehicles to the site. The visitor parking lot has EV charging stations. There are 3 large 30,000-gallon underground cisterns below the plazas around the school, which collect rainwater for toilet flushing and to provide water for all of the irrigation on site. The parking areas have rain gardens to collect and filter rainwater to recharge the aquifer. The vegetated green roof on the 3rd floor helps slow the rate of stormwater runoff while cleaning water and filtering it. All the outdoor lighting on site is designed to light only what and when necessary, without spillovers onto neighbors' lots or into the night sky. Additionally, all exterior lighting uses LED technology, which greatly reduces electricity use. A highly light-reflecting material is used on the flat roofs to reduce exterior heat island effect and to reduce interior heat loads. On the back side of the building along Route 1, you can see our Trigen plant. This equipment generates electricity on site and thereby reduces the carbon footprint of this new building. It simultaneously utilizes the waste heat from the power generation to also contribute to space heating, domestic hot water production, and space cooling.
This is the combined heat and power system. It started as just being an emergency generator, but as we looked at it relative to the size of the building, we discussed with the town and manufacturers that make these type of generators that we could do a combined heat and power system, and it worked out economically. So the generators are producing power all of the time rather than just for emergencies. And we're using the waste heat from that power generation to also supplement the heat inside the building and the domestic hot water systems inside the building. And we're also in warmer months using the heat to help cool parts of the building. So we are always referring to it as a Trigen system because it's doing power, heat, and cooling. And then if there is an emergency situation, it is designed to switch over to emergency power. So we didn't have to just buy one piece of equipment that would only be used occasionally. So many people are trying to do buildings these days without combustion. So that's one way to be more sustainable and is a great effort to try to achieve, is to not have combustion on site. But this is slightly different approach where you are producing power on site. So it's still part of the idea of distributed generation. And by generating the power on site, you are producing electricity with a smaller carbon footprint because the typical losses associated with distributing electricity to sites from utility plants is a good chunk of the carbon footprint, greenhouse gases that are associated with the generation of that power that's just lost through transmission.
In Saugus, we use displacement ventilation, typical of most of our designs. The supply diffusers are integrated into the classroom walls, so they are unobtrusive. We prefer to use displacement ventilation because it provides cleaner, quieter, conditioned air efficiently.
Displacement ventilation is just a method of delivering air to a space. And it delivers it at a low velocity and a slightly higher temperature because it's delivering it at the occupied level. So you save energy because you're not cooling it as much and you're not heating it the same way. And it's using the natural buoyancy of the air to just rise in the space. So it's bringing the air in down low, and then everybody's body heat and equipment warms it up, and it gradually just exits at the ceiling. You're really only conditioning the occupied zone. So even though like this space has a really high ceiling, you're not conditioning the space above your head to be in the comfort zone. You don't really care. You're just conditioning the space that's at the occupied level. So that saves you more energy as well. So it's energy efficient, and it's clean, and it's quiet, which is great for schools.
The building is designed to accommodate a future installation of PV array on the roof. It also has high-performance triple glazed windows and additional insulation on the roof that contribute to the thermal and acoustic comfort inside the building. Additional features include low-flow plumbing fixtures, high-efficiency LED lighting, and rapidly renewable materials such as bamboo for paneling and doors, and linoleum for flooring. Many materials have recycled content, including the concrete foundations and sidewalks, structural steel, roofing, linoleum flooring, ceiling tiles, and carpeting.
We explored some other materials. So the large curtain wall is engineered bamboo. It's very good thermally. It looks nice. And since we had that as a bamboo element, we did a lot more of the veneers as bamboo instead of a wood veneer. So it's more of an aesthetic change. It still has the same sustainable features as far as being certified, FSC. The forum seating's bamboo, the wall panels in the auditorium and in the lobby of the main entrance, and the cafeteria bench seating, all of that's bamboo.
Now we cross the upper level of Main Street to the middle school pods.
So we're on the 3rd floor now, and like we said, this is the most connected floor in the building because it's 8th grade and 9th grade. So we're walking along the bridge in between the two schools, and you can see the historic map again from the upper level. We have a lot of opportunities to see up and down to other spaces. We always want everybody to feel connected to other people in the school, so different grade levels can see what's going on above and below them.
While most grades have ownership over their respective floors, the 8th and 9th graders share the 3rd floor to ease the transition from middle into high school. This move helps establish a meaningful connection among students and with teachers as they transition schools.
And now we're in the middle school side, and you can see the walls are now blue for the water industry. And we can walk into one of the middle school pods. And you can see down into the gym from here. And these will be filled with announcements and artwork and trophies. You can see this display case, which goes into the art room, has already got some great student work in it. So we like to design these two-sided display cases so that you can show off student work, but you can also see what the students are doing inside the classrooms. And we're entering into the lobster pod. So it's the same kind of setup as you saw in the high school with the general classrooms around the perimeter. And in the center, they have these project areas. In this case, we're on the 3rd floor, so it's the 2 art rooms that open up onto the project area. And again, you see those nanowall doors that we showed you in the high school pod and at the media center. So we are on the 3rd floor, so we've added in some nice skylights here over the work tables. And again, we imagine that when the kids actually get back in here after COVID, these doors will be open and these 2 teachers will be teaching classes together and sharing this space out here. They can use it to set up easels for still life drawing. They can use it for, any kind of activity just to give them more space in their classrooms and also to engage with the general classrooms that are on the other side of the corridor.
There are 2 middle school pods per floor, and this creates an even more intimate scale than the high school pod. Each pod has the same central project area with a light well that floods the pod with the natural light. The middle school pods celebrate the role of water in Saugus' historic industries. The pod that we are standing in now celebrates the lobster industry. On other floors in this pod, they have a wood shop and a fitness studio. The other pod in the middle school is the ice pod. The technology and robotics shops open into a shared project area. Other floors house large drama classrooms, as well as the band and choral rooms. The interior tour concludes back at Main Street at the middle school entrance. This multi-story entrance wall will have yet another super graphic that celebrates historic Route 1 with all of its iconic signs, statues, and storefronts. It is rare for middle and high school students to learn in similarly organized environments, but at Saugus it really works. A combined facility eases the transitions between middle and high school and helps the educators understand and know the student body better. By combining two relatively smaller facilities into one larger one, the district was able to save money by building one shared media center, gymnasium, auditorium, and kitchen. This savings was in turn invested back into the technology and equipment budgets. This project would not have been possible without community stakeholders and a collective vote to override the taxes to fund the school. This successful design was a direct result of many hours of work with the students, administration, teachers, and the community. The end product is a facility that every town member can be proud of.